Hi, my artsy folks. My name is Elina. I'm a musician, photographer, researcher, and a bit of a manager. This blog is about artistic performance, organization, management, fundraising, balance between the artistic and pragmatic. And if this is something that interests you or might be helpful to you, keep watching. Today I will highlight some tips about fundraising and administration. In the last video, we discussed how to start with your project idea. If you have made the first steps and you have written a clear outline, maybe you already found collaborators, maybe you're still in the process of searching. If you wrote maybe your first crowdfunding campaign, maybe not your first one, it's time to publish this information on your website. First of all, you have to have a website. This is clear to everyone, I think. So I won't spend much time talking about it, but we can still discuss some tips on that later. So your website has to include the project description in the relevant section, the info about you, the info about your collaborators, media if you have it, photos, trailer, recordings, whatnot. Make sure it is really well written, as I already pointed out in the last video I made. One important thing to be ready for is prepare that maybe your first project will not be funded. Maybe it will not be fully funded. It might be funded in part. If you're just starting and you don't have a track record, the foundations might not have any idea about who you are. They have never seen your name before, they have never seen your works. They don't know if you're reliable enough. This is understandable. Whether you're writing a crowdfunding campaign or a project description for foundations, don't write too much. I already pointed it out in the previous video. However, let's talk foundations now. They have dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of applicants, and they have to read through every single application. It's very important that you get straight to the point. Don't write philosophical intros. For example, when I was a child, I had this dream. Nobody cares about your dreams as a child. I'm sorry to say it, I'm rough, but this is true. The director of that foundation you are expecting to get some funding from, they have no time, they have no resource to even contemplate on that in any way, right? So it's much more helpful if you write out exactly who, what, where, when, right? And then the person reading it will have a clear grasp from the beginning. They will know, for example, it's a music theater project of 20 people involved and we are doing works by so and so in this venue on this date. So this is your beginning, this is a clear description. If you write that once you were wandering around a countryside when you were 10 years old and you had this notion of, this is useless. I mean, this is beautiful, but not for the foundations you want to get funding from. Just maybe write another project description that will be useful for other people, or maybe leave it on the website as a read more version or something like that. Don't include it into the precious word count of your grant applications or crowdfunding as well. Regarding crowdfunding, make sure that you offer different levels of gifts for your donors, or maybe it would be a collaboration. Maybe it's a service you offer. For example, you can have free tickets for those who donate between a certain amount and another certain amount. For the next category, you could maybe have a free visit to your studio, for example, if you are a visual artist, or you could have you could give a free lesson to that person, or 3 lessons in this field that you do, maybe not necessarily to that person, but they can also choose who gets the lesson. Maybe you can offer for the top category, if you are a performer, you could offer a performance in their home, or maybe a venue, maybe it's gonna be their friend's home or something. You can offer what you are doing as a private performance, or if you're a visual artist, you could offer a work of yours, maybe a commission that you would make as a gift you're giving back. Make sure you include something as a memory for your donors. Very important, personally thank every single donor, every single person, no matter what amount they donated. Write them a personal note. For example, several platforms such as GoFundMe, probably other ones too, they have an option to write a message to every donor. After every donation, there's a text field and you can use it and write a note, maybe a short, nice note to every single person who helps you. Don't forget to do that. Needless to say, while you're emailing, it's necessary to be polite. Everyone knows, but still, it's better that I say it here once again. Always say hello, always say something like best at the end or best regards, or depending on your country and language. Always research what are the names of those people who run a foundation you're emailing. For example, the president, or it's their secretary. If there is no name of the president, sometimes they give just the name of the secretary, the contact person. But please don't write hello, dear, to whom it may concern, or whatever they write. Don't write anything impersonal. If you are writing to a specific foundation, they want to know that you have spent time to find out about them. They don't want to know that you are sending this same email to 52 other foundations. That's a no-go. So make sure you do include a name of someone so it's personal. And another helpful tip is to include in the introduction to always mention something. For example, I have seen on your website that you assisted this so-and-so wonderful project but by this so-and-so person. So look up at least something. Or maybe I saw in your concert series or in your gallery that this so-and-so artist gave a performance or exhibited or whatnot. But please research a little bit on them, because you want them to help you, to be part of what you are doing, to give their resources. Maybe it's a venue also, or maybe you were just looking for the funding, or maybe some other assistance, but you want them to do this with you. Be ready to research on them about what they are doing, whether it's relevant, and mention it. They want to see it personal. They want to see a personal approach. Don't forget to do that. Never send an email to 50 foundations in the to field, even the BCC field. Please write a personal email to every single foundation, organization. I know it's going to require time, but it's worth it at the end, because if you write to many different foundations, galleries, concert halls, concert series, whatever, most likely you will not get any single response at all. And this is the reason why. Another tip, please don't complain. Please be positive. Write something nice. Nobody wants to know that 25 foundations already sent me a negative response. Don't mention these things. Probably it's obvious, but never hurts to remind. Stay positive. Say something nice and think something nice. It's going to help you in your work. If you are not getting any response, which is normal, unfortunately, in most of the cases, you can follow up after about 2 weeks. If there is no response again, after 2 more weeks, feel free to call, and hopefully you reach who you're calling. When you're responding to an email, don't take more than 24 hours. This is a very American standard. However, I think it has to be applied everywhere. In Europe, I had experiences when I would not get responses from people or foundations maybe for 2 weeks. I think this is not good. I was raised in the US. In the US, if you don't get back to someone after 24 hours, you're dead. Something happened. And they write you a follow-up after 24 hours, usually. Especially if this is time sensitive, if it's something that has to be done soon. Usually in the US, people write once per hour. If it's something quick, you can get a reply in 5 minutes. Please don't take more than 24 hours to respond. If you want to advance in your career, it's important to take it seriously and you don't postpone it until forever. Another important thing, if you are emailing someone with attachments, please don't forget to check that you included all the attachment you are listing in your email. Don't send a follow-up with attachments. Double, triple check that all your attachments are there. Important. I already briefly mentioned it in the previous video. It's very important to research on the foundations that are really relevant to what you are doing. If there is a foundation that supports, let's say, photographers, and you are doing sculpture, it doesn't make much sense to spend your time to apply to that foundation to get a grant, because most likely you will not receive any. So that's a very basic example, but you get the idea. Maybe if you're doing not just pure art in a way that it cannot be applied to any category, any other category than art, it makes sense to look up foundations that have a certain relevant theme. For example, if your project is environmental, look what is there that concerns the environment. Or maybe if it's something cultural, like multicultural, international, maybe there is a foundation or an organization that deals with immigrants or with various cultures, something international. If there is maybe a historical foundation, if you are doing a project that has to do with history, maybe it's history of art, maybe it's something else, maybe it's something psychological. So again, going back to the very beginning, to your first outline, your concept, your questions, basic questions we already discussed in the previous video. What is your project about? Why is it relevant today, now and here? And just to refresh it and continue your research. Another very important thing is to check out what's going on in your country, region, city, town, because sometimes there is governmental aid. Depends on where you are locally. However, it's never a bad idea to find out what's going on, whether there can be any funding from the government. And actually in 2020, since a lot of events got cancelled, some events that were supposed to be supported by the governments of different countries canceled, so the government actually didn't spend that money. And some countries have spare funding that could be perhaps claimed by another artist who is doing a project, who didn't get a cancellation, or maybe who is doing a project online or some recorded version. So check that out. Maybe it would be helpful to you. Last but not least, my personal tip, I'm sharing it here with you for free. This is a joke. I'm sharing everything here with you for free. Take photos of the bottoms of the posters you see on the street. That bottom part, it usually has all the sponsors. So you can see who supported the event locally. Sometimes there are very big foundations. Sometimes there are banks. Sometimes there are some corporations. You never know. However, when you see a cultural event, a flyer, a program, a poster, and there is that, usually it's a white part, you know what I'm talking about? I always take pictures of that part. I don't care about the event. Sometimes it's not relevant to me at all. However, I do take picture of that part, and then I Google every single foundation. Sometimes it's very locally based. For example, I'm not from that region. I cannot apply there. And sometimes I find out about some new organizations that could potentially be helpful in what I'm doing. Maybe it could help you as well. This is it for today. Comment below whether this video was helpful. Was there anything new that you didn't know? Maybe you just found out. Subscribe, hit the bell button, and stay tuned for the future videos because we will discuss a lot of interesting topics in detail. Have a good time, everyone. Bye.